From 1992, I believe this is the NBC report on the 92 riots in LA. Listen.
March 16th, 1991. Latasha Harlins, a black teenager, is shot and killed by a Korean store owner, Soonja Do. Do is convicted of voluntary manslaughter, but is sentenced only to parole and a small fine. The black community is outraged and remembers.
What, 6 months probation? I mean, the people were pissed then.
Today, local Korean radio is broadcasting which stores in the area are threatened. Young men like Eddie Kim rush over to try to defend them.
I don't care about the racism, I don't care anything, but it's not right, okay? It's not right to break inside and get any stuff, you know? It's not right. I don't think it's right.
Hee Lee spent last night and will spend tonight guarding his appliance store. A small battalion of employees and relatives will try to help.
I only have one shotgun. That's all I have. What do they have? They have hundreds of crazy people, hundreds of crazy young people with lots of guns.
After the destruction, many Koreans have lost all faith that the authorities can protect them.
We have one of those Koreans that were protecting people, Tony Moon, a Rooftop Korean from 1992. Welcome, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well, Glenn. Thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure.
I got to tell you, what an honor to have you on. Can you take us through the experience that you had in the 92 LA riots?
Of course. I was 19 at the time, and I was fairly similar, a little familiar with Latasha Harlins' verdict, but being 19, I wasn't really plugged into politics or current events. And then when things blew up after the Rodney King verdict, it came down on a Wednesday, is when we saw the outrage from the black community. And that's what it was in 92. It was basically a community that had legitimate reasons to be upset. And there was a rift between the black community and the Korean community, because the Korean community actually went into these black areas that were predominantly black and opened businesses there, and were doing business in the community. And because of the cultural differences between the two, there was a lot of, I guess you can say, built up animosity towards each other. And that's where, I guess that's the riots. A lot of the pent-up frustration was targeting Korean business owners because of that. And it went on from Wednesday through the weekend until the National Guard showed up. But we were fending for ourselves by Thursday. And the call went out on Thursday. And once it went out is when many of us answered the call. A lot of the misconception that's online is that it was just Korean shop owners, which isn't true. There were a lot of young men like myself, 19, 20, 22-year-olds that went out there. And that's kind of what I'm writing in my book right now, from that perspective, growing up in Los Angeles at that time and what the culture was like and who some of these young men were, one of them being Eddie Lee, who gave his life that week, for the community. And unfortunately, it was, through friendly fire, and I detailed that in my book regarding why that happened and who some of these, young men were, like myself and my driver who was out there. And we weren't always on, we weren't all on the roof, which is another misconception.
Right.
Some of us were out there, we were hunting. And I talk about that.
Wait, what do you mean by we were hunting?
They think, a lot of people think we're just shooting at looters, which is not the case. In 90s LA, it's a very gang-rich culture in the 90s. I mean, there were a lot of gangs. One of the largest gangs that came out of LA is MS, which is short for Mara Salvatrucha, which is a Salvadorian gang that started in the mid-80s. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were shooting at these business owners. And some of us who had a background in the streets knew their territory and knew who they were. So we actually went into some of these areas to basically let them know, put them on notice that it's not just, the older generation that's shooting at them, but we're actually going to be actively hunting them down too. And LA is very layered and complicated. There's a lot of different pockets and neighborhoods where, you have different ethnic groups. And the rule is that you don't go into other people's area and mess around. And you stay in your own neighborhood. You be respectful of other people's, different neighborhoods. You don't go there and just start popping off shots. And that's kind of what they were doing. And I'm glad to say that that it worked out. In the end, it worked out.
Well, I know I lived in New Haven, Connecticut, that has a very rich Italian history, and that was the way it was. The Italians protected their neighborhood, and don't come into the Italian neighborhood and try to stir anything up, or you'll be in trouble with the Italians, and they won't mess with you in your neighborhood. Just everybody take care of yourself. Yeah. So did you ever feel like a vigilante in any way? Did you feel that maybe this was questionable to take this on yourself?
No, not at all. When you have you don't have law enforcement out in the streets anymore, the streets become the Wild West. It's everybody for themselves. It's you become you kind of gain kind of a tribal sense of protecting your own, right? Mm-hmm. So it's no longer a sense of vigilantism, but just protecting your own, and then making sure that there isn't any encroachment into, I guess you could say, your territory. So I didn't see it as being a vigilante, but just, maintaining law and order, a somewhat law and order and some semblance of peace. And that was done through the barrel of, firearm.
Compare what you went through, the Rodney King riots, the George Floyd riots, and this riot. Is there any difference? Absolutely.
Absolutely. The 1992 riots were organic. You had different parts of LA County that were upset, and you had fires and looting because the Black community was spread out through South LA, Compton, South Central, Ladera Heights, different areas. And you can actually see that, when you looked at the city as a whole from, let's say, Hollywood, you saw the fires from different parts of the city. These riots that are occurring now, which is like the 2020, what I call the Antifa BLM riots, and now the 2025 LA riots that are happening down, they're very centralized, and they're not organic. They're being funded by NGOs, and it's a leftist Marxist agenda that's being pushed to make it appear as if there's a widespread support for this. For example, the current riots that are occurring right now, it's just happening in downtown LA. And the curfew that was imposed by Mayor Bass is only for, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I think it's a 2 square mile radius.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
Or a 1 square mile. Yeah, I mean, that's where it is. I mean, anywhere outside of that 1 square mile, life is proceeding as it always has been, and it doesn't look like anything is going on. Whereas the difference in 1992, whether you were in Hollywood, Culver City, which is further out west, and then Hollywood is up north past downtown LA, and obviously south of downtown LA, you had fires, looting. I mean, it was widespread. This isn't anything like, what's going on back in 1992. And it just kind of shows the incompetence of the current leadership of not being able to get their arms around something like this. And they are, because of their lack of leadership and I would say common sense, they're letting these protesters spiral out of control, because many of them, the playbook is for them to start in downtown LA at City Hall and then make their way down to the 101 freeway, which really pisses off a lot of people, because that's, it's a highly traveled freeway in LA.
It's a parking lot. You stop me from getting home. I don't care. I don't care if you're free for free candy bars, reindeer, and Santa. I hate your guts if you delay me on that highway. I hate you when I'm driving home.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's no widespread support for this.
Okay, so tell me about how what the feeling is on Trump and the National Guard coming in.
I think it's awesome. I think this should have been done back in 2020, but obviously, during that time, it was his first administration, first time going through this. But I posted it recently on Twitter that, when you take a shot at a man and you try to assassinate him, he comes back different. And that's what he's showing. Yeah. It's different.
Yeah, it is. It is. Newsom and Bass both say the riots are contained. They didn't need the National Guard, that this is Trump just trying to turn into a dictator, that this is their communities having enough of these people being disappeared on the streets. What do you say? What does the average person that you talk to say about those kinds of things?
I would trust a meteorologist more than I would trust Newsom or Bass. They're in the same basket as Pelosi. They lie about what's going on because of social media and because of the lack of reporting from the local news, which covers for the current leadership in LA County, including the mayor and the board of supervisors, the people that are not getting 100% of the news. And this is no different than what happened in early this year with the fires, with what was going on in Pacific Palisades, Altadena. They're not the news. In order to get coverage for the local leadership and to get on their good side, they're not going to report anything bad that's happening. But currently, I believe there's a class action lawsuit against the board of supervisors, the mayor. I think there's tons of lawsuits that are being filed right now. And the problem is that it's not these individuals that are going to be paying for these. It's the city and the county, which is going to be a drain on the budget, and it's going to affect the social services that we need, like paramedics, firefighters,
I can't imagine being those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you for any advice you would give to mom and pop business owners that are vulnerable today.
A lot of them are in downtown LA. I would say board up. What I've noticed in 1992, the shops that were spared were the ones that had to steel roll-up doors. Those do well. Otherwise, now lock your doors. And deterrence is really a great way to keep looters out of your store. So you don't necessarily have to take shots at them, but displaying. I outline it in my Twitter feed. It's pinned to my profile. Deterrence is actually really great because these individuals are looking for low-hanging fruit. So they want their opportunities. So they want to go for the easiest shop or whatever they're going to loot. So if they they see you're, let's say you have a shotgun or an AR, right? And they see that you're armed, they're going to think twice before entering, and they'll move on to the next target.
By the way, you can follow Tony Moon at Roof Korean 7. That's his Twitter handle, Roof Korean 7. When's your book come out? You got to send me a copy so I can read it in advance because I want to have you back when it's out.
Absolutely. You've been most gracious to me. I don't know if you know, but I did an interview with Morgan Zeggers about 3 years ago in your studio. That's been turned into a museum. I think you have some really great artifacts in there.
I do.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So
thank you. I didn't know that.
I'm planning to release it. I'm finishing it up by near the end of this month. My kids are going to read it because the book is tailored towards the next generation, like Gen Alpha, Gen Z. Because these are the kids that weren't alive at that time, and they only see what online social media portrays, and then also what they may hear from the news. So I want to give them an account from a teenage perspective at 19 in terms of what it looked like and how it played out. So my kids are going to read it first. I have some really close friends. Some of them are in my book. They're going to read it too, and once they give their blessing and they're okay with it, I'm going to try to push it out before the end of the summer.
That's great. Well, do me a favor. As soon as you're comfortable, send a copy to me so I can read it because I'd like to be ahead on it. But Tony, best of luck. Thank you for coming on with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
Tony Moon, 1992, Rooftop Korean.